Hello and welcome to episode 98 of Third and Wrong. I am joined with quite the crew this go around. I'm Zach Foth, one of the co-hosts, and I'm joined as always with Austyn Dalwonga out of Medicine Hat as well. How's it going?
Pretty good, Zach. I'm just living the dream over here.
I'm happy to hear it. I love it. We're also joined with Ian Gustafson out of St. Paul? Wait, no. Where are you from?
No, man. I'm not from St. Paul, Minnesota. I am from I'm from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Not from, but that's where I live.
That's close enough.
No, yeah, not where you're from. Sorry, that's where you're at right now.
Yes, sir. And I'm also the host of Baseline to Baseline, the superior podcast of the amateur.
Some competition on the. You got to it too late.
Damn. Well,
we're lost without Steve.
I won't make that same mistake with the next guy I'm going to introduce here, Brandon LaChapelle. I can't pronounce his name. Sorry, buddy. And he is one of the co-hosts for Dummy. Oh my God, Fantasy Football for Dummies. I love it. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. My phone battery isn't though. I'm on 25%. So if I fall out at some point, that's what's happened.
Oh no, you've lost 10% in the last 5 minutes. So good.
It was at 40% 10 minutes ago when we started. So.
Are you using an iPhone 5 or what?
Oh, might as well be. It's a bit old, not that old.
Maybe, do you have a plug-in near you?
I do, but I have wired headphones that I can't do with both at the same time.
Okay, well, we better get started then. We're going to jump right in, guys. You haven't heard from us. We were gone last week as it was the Pro Bowl week in the NFL, and now we are on to the Super Bowl week. Woo, woo. Frickin' Tom Brady's in it once again, but we will get to that. We do want to cover Championship Sunday, looking back at the Bucs and Packers first. It was quite the game. Looking back, we had Aaron Rodgers playing in his fourth, or no, he's lost 4 times in it now. 2014, 2016, 2019, and now 2020. Obviously winning it back in 2010. What did you guys think of this game, and what did you guys also? Do you think this has a big hit on Aaron Rodgers' legacy now going forward? Austyn, we'll jump to you first. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought that this game was pretty. It's going to be tough for Rodgers to kind of overcome in terms of his legacy because the offense was stagnant for the first half of the game, basically. And then after getting 3 Tom Brady ducks, which he doesn't throw too often, in the second half, they got 7 points out of all 3 of those turnovers. So, I mean, where did the offense go? That was a time that they needed their star quarterback, especially coming off an MVP season, to kind of carry the load of that offense and make a push to make it into the Super Bowl. But I would say that what's the coach's name? Not Zach Taylor. It's the other guy. It's Matt LaFleur, thank you. Some young coach. He kind of took it out of Rodgers' hands at the end of the game there, but I don't blame him fully. I think that Rodgers had enough chances to put points on the board and just didn't. So it's tough when you lose 4 NFC championships and only win 1. You're just going to be the guy that never realized his potential, I guess. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and I definitely have to agree with you. Seeing and looking back on it, like when Tom Brady threw those ducks, it wasn't like they were thrown to him and then it wasn't like they didn't have momentum. They had just scored 2 touchdowns and then they couldn't go down and score again. Lash, what are your thoughts on this game?
I mean, I honestly thought Green Bay was gonna win, so it was like a surprising outcome. But I don't know if it all comes down to Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure it's been speculated upon that their first 2-round picks in the draft last year could have been used in a much more effective manner. And I'm sure those guys would have, like, if you took actual starters in the first and second round, I'm sure they could have helped out a little bit in a game like this. And kind of had season-long impact. But disappointing nonetheless that Aaron Rodgers couldn't get it done. Like Ozzy said, coming off such a stellar year.
Right. I have to agree with you. I really wanted Green Bay to win that too. I did pick the Bucs, but I was cheering for Green Bay. Ian, do you have any additional thoughts?
Yeah. First of all, I thought it was a great game. Some of those Tom Brady like interceptions in that fourth quarter were awful. Like it looked like some of them he just threw straight up in the air. Like,
Yeah.
it was bad. But anyways, like in terms of his legacy, Rodgers' legacy, I think it does hurt his legacy. But like I look back on his career, and there's so many of those losses that he had. Like I don't necessarily put on him. Like I have a hard time. What's up, Austyn? You said, "Oh no."
Oh no, my connection's lagging. I thought I lost you guys.
Oh no,
back.
you're good.
Technical difficulties. We're all good, guys. Keep going.
Anyways, as I was saying, no, I think it does hurt his legacy overall. But looking back on some of those teams, like I feel like some of his teams kind of let him down, like over the years. Like you look at, especially not this year, but the one last year. Who did they lose to in the playoffs again? I know that was a really
Francisco.
Yeah, like that was a good team, but it's kind of like the Drew Brees. Like some years they had a stellar offense but no defense, and then other years they had a good defense but they just couldn't get it together on offense. So I feel like the blame shouldn't be all on him, and he played really good. Like I think he had better stats than Tom Brady in that game.
In the end, yeah.
More yards, more TDs, I think.
Less interceptions.
But I think a big turning point was that Tom Brady touchdown right before halftime. I was surprised, like oh, they left way too much time on the clock for them, and then he scored that touchdown. And then also, I don't know why Green Bay didn't go for it on fourth down instead of kicking that field goal in the fourth quarter. That was a big mistake. So there's so many things they could have done better, but overall, I thought it was a pretty awesome game.
Yeah, I definitely, out of the two games, I would definitely lean towards this game being better than the next one we're going to go over here. Did you guys see that segue? Wasn't that beautiful? Steve, thanks for
well done, host.
That's right. Yeah. Taking a look at the next one, guys, then we have Bills going to the Chiefs. It was more of a blowout than the previous game mentioned. Chiefs winning 38-24 and advancing to the Super Bowl. You know, there's a lot of cool narratives here, looking at Josh Allen making it to his first AFC championship with the year he had. That was very interesting. And I actually want to keep focus on the Bills here. We'll jump into the Chiefs a little bit later with their Super Bowl matchup here. But guys, you know, it wasn't the most exciting game seeing the Chiefs advance here. Do you guys have any thoughts on the losing Bills and what they could maybe do to improve next year, or attack it so they can potentially win this game next year? We started with Austyn last time. Let's go with Ian. You were the last one to get one last go, so give her.
Sure. I thought, like I said to the other game, I thought this one was also a really great game. The Bills, I think the Chiefs just ended up being too much for the Bills. Like their offense was firing on all cylinders. Like they have an unbelievable offense, but the Bills defense, like regardless of, you know, that blowout, like I think there's still some bright spots on that defense, but I think that could be something that they focus on in the offseason, is maybe still trying to keep on improving that defense, because that offense I think is pretty well rounded. The defense is still great, don't get me wrong, but if you want to compete with teams like the Chiefs who are going to put a lot of points on you, I think making an overall stronger defense I think is going to help them out moving into next year. But I think for the most part they should just try and run it back with the team they got, because they've made a drastic improvement from the year prior to this season. So I think they got something good over in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I've always liked their defense there. Looking on the offense side of the ball, Allen really attacked and looked good this year, but there's some potential growth there as well. I won't jump into it much. Lash, what are your thoughts?
Ultimately, I think this is kind of what was expected. Obviously, the Chiefs are like a juggernaut at this point, but I thought this was a pretty exciting game as well. Like Ian said, two of my favorite teams, honestly, two of the teams that I enjoy watching the most and whatnot. But honestly, I think it's just going to come down to experience. Like Josh Allen went from like the literal 32nd best quarterback last year or something to like being top 5 at least this year. So I think he'll improve, or he'll continue to improve. But one thing that I've noticed is if they could like actually get a running game going, I think that could be pretty beneficial for them. Singletary just doesn't really get it done, and without Zach Moss being there, they definitely struggled in that department. Like in the Ravens game, they ran it like 9 times, even though it was crazy windy and stuff. Like I think that'll just help to take a lot of the pressure off of Josh Allen. And then the defense is pretty stout, but probably a few things that they can shore up on that end as well. And they're a pretty well-rounded team. So I think just as the years go by, they'll just continue to get better.
Yeah, that's really good. I was going to point out the run game as well. When you look at Singletary and Moss, like it's a good 1-2 punch. They might just be young and need to develop a bit more, but they were not getting the job done this year. Austyn, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I agree that the run game was not up to snuff, up to NFL standards for the Bills, but they showed all year long that they didn't necessarily need to run the ball effectively to be successful. So with that, all season long, kind of, obviously they had their exceptions where Zach Moss would go off against my Patriots, one example, but for the most part, they relied on Josh Allen much of the year. And I was kind of underwhelmed by the showing that Josh Allen had in that game. It's a big game for any young quarterback. So I definitely could see if the pressure did get to him a little bit, especially going up against the Super Bowl champions, the most recent Super Bowl champs. So it's tough, but I was, from seeing his growth trajectory this year just really take off, I was really underwhelmed based on what we saw that game. For it to be a blowout as bad as it was, like it wasn't as close as the score even says, and it's still a 2 touchdown differential. It still wasn't even that close. I was kind of shocked that Allen had that kind of a game, especially with what we saw. He was decimating defenses all year long, and for him to kind of come out in the AFC Championship game and have some faults there. It sounds like I'm putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but that's just because I think that that's just how this offense kind of placed him as like the be all and end all for this team.
You're totally right, Austin. I'm gonna just say something along the same parallel with that. Looking at it, Josh Allen was actually, as you said, their whole offense. But if you look back at his stat line, he had a beautiful stat line overall this year. But if you look back at his passer ratings, and like his passer rating is a good way of looking at it because it goes with TDs, interceptions, and yards, everything together. But he was very inconsistent. The better games really overshadowed his bad ones. But if you put it on like a chart, I saw one on, I think, NFL.com, and it was very up and down all year. But his overshadowing successful games really overshadowed overshadowed his bad games. Looking at it now, the inconsistency without the run game, when big moments like an AFC Championship comes around, we're seeing that inconsistency hit, and then he can't make it over the hump to the Super Bowl. So I think it alludes back to what everyone's saying here. They need to establish a better run game, and then potentially that'll allow for a more consistent Allen, which I think would help. But talking about guys with big arms, there's a big trade with a guy with a big arm in it. We saw the Detroit Lions trade Matthew Stafford to the not St. Louis Rams, the LA Rams, for a 2022, a 2023 first round pick, a 2021 third round pick, and Jared Goff. And then LA received just Matthew Stafford. Now, this is a very interesting trade, as Jared Goff has had very successful seasons with the Rams and McVay. And looking at Stafford, he really has had nice statistics with the Lions, but no success in the postseason, no success with records. I think he's only made the postseason twice in his career over, I think it's like 11 years. He was drafted in 2009, so coming up on 12 years here. Now, this is very interesting. There's been a lot of opinions on this trade, and I really want to dive into this one because I think it's very interesting. Before I take up too much more, Austyn, what are your thoughts on this trade?
I love this trade for the Rams. I made a comment on Twitter that I might have to start cheering for the Rams just because I'm such a big Stafford homer. And I'm going to kind of come to his defense too, because one thing you mentioned, Zach, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this on Twitter, is his inability to win and win consistently. And I would just like to point to the fact that many people who watch the NFL and who analyze the NFL, they talk about how Detroit's one of the most dysfunctional franchises, yet we're expecting Matt Stafford to have succeeded in that. So you totally give him a 180 from a dysfunctional franchise and put him with one of the more well-run franchises just of the last few years here under Sean McVay and Les Snead. Say what you will about the draft picks or the lack thereof now, but they're building a solid foundation right now. And I think that this is an incredible trade. You get Stafford with what was always considered like a quarterback friendly offense, whatever that means. And you let him sling the ball to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and you give him a run game and a top 5 defense is number 1 this year. And I think that we're going to see some fireworks in this offense. We've always talked about how Jared Goff is kind of a boring quarterback and he's kind of the beneficiary of Sean McVay's quarterback friendly offense. Well, now you got a guy who can actually sling the ball. And I'm just super excited for this for the Rams. I think that they're definitely a top team contending for the Super Bowl after this trade.
That's interesting. I like what you said there. And I think it's more high risk on the Rams side here than it is for Detroit. They're getting a younger quarterback with a bunch of picks. We're going to see what Jared Goff is made of now without McVay. So there's 2 really nice narratives here. You're finally getting Stafford, the team around him, to succeed. We'll see what he can produce. And then we're also getting Jared Goff to the Lions, where, you know, a team has not been successful. The narrative has always been he's only successful because of McVay. It'll be interesting to see if he crumbles under that pressure or if he attempts it. But the reason I say high risk, high reward, the other way for the Lions, it's much more low risk. If Jared Goff doesn't pan out, I guess they got to deal with the contract, but you're getting 2 first-round picks and a third back for Stafford here. And you'll be able, you moved on from Stafford, which is what you wanted to do, but you're also setting up with a new head coach in town, a rebuild. And that's pretty exciting for Detroit fans. And, as much as we hate on Jared Goff, I hope he shows what he can do now with 2 bags of Lay's on his shoulder, some chips on his shoulder. So that being said, Ian, do you have anything else to add with that?
Yeah, I really
Maybe
like
some
the
dip.
Yeah, I'll bring the dip. Though I really like this this trade for the Rams more in particular. They're getting a quarterback, I think, who is hungry to prove himself. He hasn't, like you said, he hasn't been in the playoffs very often. And when he did, it's because he actually had some offensive weapons. We had one of the best receivers of all time with Calvin Johnson. So to see him on the Rams with the weapons they have on offense, I think it's going to be great for him. And he still has a cannon for an arm. So they're going to be able to do some fun things on offense. And like you said, Zach, I think we're really going to see if Jared Goff is a good quarterback, because Like you guys always say on here, that he's always kind of a product of the system in LA and Detroit. He's not going to have that luxury. So we're going to see if he's actually a gunslinger and if he can get it done. And that'll be interesting to see as well. And those picks are going to be nice. Although, like, I don't really think that first round picks, sometimes I feel like you can miss a lot more on first round picks in the NFL than you can like in the NBA, for example. I think it's a tougher, like, first round picks don't seem like quite as, I guess, valuable in the NFL, I guess, as they would be in the NBA. I could be wrong there, but I feel like they're not. But anyways, I like it for both, but more in particular for LA. I think they're gonna have a good team next year.
Yeah, good points there, Ian. Lash, do you have anything to add?
A lot of it just kind of echoes what they've already said, but I've seen a lot of people kind of saying that 2 first plus is like a lot to give up for a guy like Stafford. But I guess this kind of, like, in my mind anyway, it almost vaults them into like the tier of actual contenders. Like, you want to talk about inconsistent quarterbacks. I feel like Jared Goff is like the poster boy for that. Watching him can be infuriating, but then he can look like the best QB in the league in some games. So I think this just provides some stability as long as Goff doesn't get, or as long as Stafford doesn't get hurt. And the Lions got a really nice haul for a guy who wanted out anyways. So I think that's a pretty good deal on both sides.
Yeah, fair enough, guys. I hate to say this before we move on, but I was actually leaning more towards the side of Detroit winning this trade. I really love Matthew Stafford. I love his talent. You know, he's looked at as one of the most talented armed quarterbacks in the NFL, but man, that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy when you're giving all that capital away to come in. And, you know, it's now, in my opinion, with what they have going on there, it's Super Bowl or bust for a guy who hasn't really succeeded yet. He's succeeded statistically, but we need to see that winning in the postseason. And I'm really excited for the narratives, but that's a lot to put on a guy who is 32 and you're giving away a lot of young assets there. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for it and I'm rooting for him. Guys, we're moving on to the big preview show here. Unfortunately, we can't do our Super Bowl party this year, but we're going to make it fun here for everyone. We're going to have some fun Super Bowl previews. Isn't that right, guys?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, it's a fun matchup. We're looking at a rematch. I guess they played this year, week 12, and it ended up being 27-24 for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't recall if that was in Tampa. However, Tyreek broke out for a huge game. He had 12 receptions for 263 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 200 yards, a bit more than 200 yards and 2 touchdowns came in the first quarter. Another quick narrative with that too, Tampa kept, if you call it, kept Kelsey to 84 yards receiving that game, 9 receptions though. And, you know, moving towards it, the Chiefs came out with the victory. However, things have changed a bit since then. Brady has now thrown multiple TDs in 10 consecutive games. He's looked much better. Leonard Fournette is hitting on all cylinders, helping them advance to the Super Bowl here. This is just going to be a fun one, guys. I really feel like there could be fireworks here. And there's a huge narrative between Mahomes being the potential next GOAT. And this is a huge narrative because he could have one of the most accomplished careers after this Sunday if he wins another Super Bowl MVP and wins the Super Bowl again. That's an AFC championship in appearance in his first year starting, a Super Bowl championship his second year, and the Super Bowl MVP. And if he does it again this year, another Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP potentially, and an MVP in his 2018 campaign. Guys, I want some sauce here. Let's hear something. I want something exciting from you. Austyn, we're going to start with you. I want the preview,
nice.
and I want you to talk a little bit about these narratives that are coming with it. I know you're a big Brady homer, and it hurts to hear these things, but I feel like there's got to be some respect for what Mahomes has done this early and showing the trajectory. I know it'll be hard, but I want to hear your takes on these.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's merit to what people are saying in terms of Mahomes being the best quarterback of all time, the greatest quarterback of all time after 3 years of just absolute dominance. But I guess this is where that debate kind of gets a little tangled and messy, is when you start to talk about accomplishments and the Super Bowl and just in general. Tom Brady making it to 10 is obviously quite the feat in its own, making and possibly winning 7 or being 6-4. It doesn't matter. You still make it to the big game. And so it's hard to kind of intertwine those arguments in like the 30 seconds that I'm going to take here. But I'm excited for that narrative for sure. And it's made this game interesting as a Tom Brady homer, because now it's something that I almost have felt like I've got to defend against these people saying that, oh man, they're coming for your boy Tom, or Mahomes is coming for your boy. Well, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks because I've defended, you've been on the other side of those Peyton Manning, Tom Brady debates years ago. And here we are. Now I've been able to sit atop my throne knowing that Tom's the GOAT, and now it's kind of called into question. So I'm hoping Tom can just put this one away and just make sure that it's like, all right, young grasshopper, you're not there yet. And I bet you can know where my Super Bowl pick is going. The matchup that I really do, I'm really excited to see is this Tampa Bay front seven versus the Kansas City offensive line. And I'm sure if our listeners have been paying attention to any analysis, I'm sure they've heard this one just everywhere, because the Chiefs are hurting on the offensive line. I think they're down 3 or 4 of their starting offensive linemen from the start of the year. And that Tampa front seven has actually been quite well. It's kind of improved ever since that week 12 loss. Really, they've kind of, the defense in general, the whole team actually, because since that's when Tom Brady just went full on Super Saiyan mode and started throwing multiple touchdowns and was just putting up an incredible stat line week in, week out, and just on a train wreck to the Super Bowl here. So with the defense kind of hitting on all cylinders in that sense, going up against a hurting offensive line, there's gonna be a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes, and I'm still curious to see if that toe injury is still lingering at all, because I think that he's gonna have to scramble a lot in this game, and that's kind of where it comes down to it for me. I think that if the defense can get some pressure on him and force him to be uncomfortable up against or with that battered offensive line, is that going to be enough for the Bucs to get out with a win in this one? Because I think the Chiefs offense is still too high powered that it's still called into question here. We still have to give the Chiefs their respect. So that's what it comes down to for me. And I definitely think it's possible. I think that I have the Bucs winning this one 31-27, and Tom Brady gets number 7. Let's go.
There's the first one. So we have Ozzy for the Bucs 31-27, and Tom Brady getting his 7th Super Bowl and putting Patrick Mahomes to bed for a little lullaby, So that's the narrative we have from Austyn here. And to add on to that, actually, the Tampa Bay has been very good against tight ends. Actually, they've only allowed 1 game this year for over 100 yards for tight ends. So it's interesting to see. They got totally burnt by Tyreek Hill this last game. So we'll see if they'll be able to cover. A lot of reports I was reading too was that when they were playing Tyreek Hill, they even tried changing the coverages a lot to help, and he still torched them after that. So it's going to be interesting to see what they scheme up to go up against Tyreek Hill. And if they scheme putting more guys on him, does that open up Travis in the middle? So it's going to be very interesting to see those narratives. But I want who did I go to first last go around? I think I was to Ian. So I want to go to Lash next. So Lash, you are next on the Super Bowl.
Oh boy. Before I get into it, is my mic quality still okay? I've been micromanaging my battery here.
We can hear you.
Okay. I think obviously my pick is going to be the Chiefs. They're my most fun team to watch. Despite being a Titans fan, I definitely love watching the Chiefs above any other team. They're just so exciting to watch. But I think Ozzy has some good points there. It's going to be kind of the defense that pulls Tampa to like even, because I think along the line and even the linebackers, they're definitely better than the Chiefs. And like Ozzy said, the Chiefs are pretty decimated up front. But I know recently the corners and secondary have been playing pretty good, getting a lot of interceptions and stuff, but I feel like they've been pretty inconsistent. Like sometimes they get absolutely torched, like Tyreek did to them whenever they played. And I don't think Tampa's advantage in the running game is going to be enough to kind of nullify what the Chiefs do on offense in throwing the ball and just 50-yard plays left, right, and center. It's going to be interesting because the Chiefs, like you guys said that Allen had a pretty bad game against the Chiefs. I think watching their defense, they had those receivers like in a snuggie, and the commentators just kept going back to that. They're like, "Oh, watch this play. The receiver has nowhere to go. They're never open." So I know Tom is a more like intelligent quarterback, high IQ quarterback than Allen might be. But if the Chiefs defense can play like they did against the Bills, I think it's going to be pretty tough for the Bucs to kind of keep up even. Ultimately, I've got the Chiefs probably going like 34-24.
We're 1-1 here now. We have Brandon LaChapelle going for the Chiefs 24-24, and Ozzy for the Super Bowl. Tom, the Super Bowl king, at 31-27 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ian,
Yes,
who
sir.
do you got winning?
So I'm just going to start off by saying this is not really the matchup I was hoping for out of all of, like the scenarios that we could have had like from last week. Although I do like this matchup. I think it's going to be exciting, especially with all the narratives that you guys have already mentioned. Now, I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win because I think that their offense is too good to not win at this point. Although, like we've seen the Chiefs' offense just absolutely kill it this season, the Bucs' offense has looked pretty good in these playoffs. And I thought Tom Brady's career was over after he lost to the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2017. I was like, oh, he's going to go downhill. He's not making it back to the Super Bowl. But here we are, like 4 years later, and he's in the Super Bowl again. So I really don't want to bet against Tom Brady because I've done it time and time again, and here we are. So I think there's a very good chance that the Bucs are probably going to pull it out. But I'm sticking with the Chiefs because we're not cowards at the amateur agency. So I got to stay with the pick. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. The Chiefs offense, I think, is just unbelievable. But the Bucs defense did look pretty good last week, like against Green Bay. And I think that if they can stop Green Bay's offense, like I don't see why they couldn't. Maybe all they really need is like a couple stops if they can keep up offensively with them. If they can make Patrick Mahomes maybe go 3 and out a couple times, I think that could really help them big time. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really high offense game. I think both these offenses are playing really good. Surprisingly, the Bucs offense looked pretty good last week as well. Leonard Fournette came alive. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I'm going to say 35-32 for the Chiefs.
Man, Ian, you wait till I put my freaking prediction in there because it's so close to what you said.
Except
so
with the
you
Bucs
have the
winning.
Chiefs. So yeah, let me get into that, okay? So we got 2 for the Chiefs, 1 for the Bucs for Aussie. Am I going to make it a tie, or am I going to go for 3-1 for the Chiefs? Well, let me tell you. No, guys, I think this is a really scary game for the Chiefs this year. We're going in there with, Tom seems to respond after losses. Look what he did to the Saints after losing twice to them. This year he came in and that team dismantled the Saints, who we thought was going to do a lot better this year. Also, I think it's also a good thing when you lose to a team in the regular season, then you get to redeem that in the postseason. You get to kind of see what you did wrong, what ways you can work, seeing the different formations and stuff that you are against that team previously. However, what scares me the most is that, and you alluded to it, Ian, that run game of Leonard Fournette with the Bucs is terrifying. And Tom Brady is hitting on all cylinders because that run game's so good. Not taking away from what Tom's doing. He's throwing the ball magnificently. I think this is the best deep ball I've seen him throw in years, man. And that terrifies me. However, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to come in. He's going to go and do his thing, right? So the Bucs might get ahead, but then, Patrick's going to do Patrick things. He's going to run out here, throw a weird no-look pass and score a touchdown and build all the momentum back to him. I'm not giving anyone any rhyme or reason here. I'm just going to tell you, I think the Chiefs are going to win as well. And we're going to go 3-1 against the Chiefs to Bucs in this one. My prediction was 35-31.
Ooh.
So it was 1 point off of what Ian said. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game just naturally. These offenses are both hitting on all cylinders, but it just seems like when you look, and I'm not taking away from the Bucs, I think they can win a lot of ways. But when you look at the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes just finds a way to win. Like whatever scenario you put him in, I'm not taking away from Tom or anything right now, but like Patrick in his short career so far has shown that even when you're down 24-0 at half, he's going to come back and win. Things like that. And I know I'm saying that, and look at what Tom did against Atlanta in 2016. I'm not going to sit here and not do that, but I think it's time for Patrick Mahomes to kind of scooch over the Tom Brady train, and it's now to pass the torch to the new GOAT. And that's what's going to happen here at 35-31.
They should, with the amount of money they're paying Patrick, and like he should be able to. They're paying. Is this Bruce Arians' first Super Bowl too? Like that's an interesting narrative as well. Like Andy might have a little bit more experience over him in that sense. I think it is his first Super Bowl, correct?
He went to. I think he was on the staff of Pittsburgh Steelers when they went in 2008.
Oh, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, or if anyone else on here knows the exact stat. I don't know if he went in 2010. As well with Pittsburgh and lost, but I think he has been to a Super Bowl, just not as a head coach.
Okay, speaking of that Steelers one, I saw a little clip today of that San Antonio Holmes catch in the end zone, and I just thought I'd bring it up because I forgot how crazy that was until I saw it again today. And
I'm watching right now. I'm watching Hard Knocks, the Jets. I started way back in the 2001 Ravens, and I've been going up that way. And San Antonio Holmes just signed with the Jets in that one, and they talk about the catch there too, Ian. So not far off there, man. That was an unreal catch, dude.
And they did it like with 1 minute driving down the field too.
Right, and it sucks because, to be honest with you, I was cheering for Kurt Warner that year in the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald and such, but
yeah, it kind of was.
Steelers, man.
They eliminated the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, so I was, but I kind of wasn't cheering for them at the same time.
Yeah, guys. Now, before we end the podcast, does anyone else have anything else to say in regards to the Super Bowl preview?
I'm not sure who Steve or what his score prediction was, but I know Steve had the Chiefs winning this one because of Tom Brady winning against his beloved Seahawks 6 years ago. So the Malcolm Butler interception, for those who don't know.
yeah, that's right. So
4-1 on this show.
That leaves an upset Oz on the island and the 4-1.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now the Bucs are definitely going to win because we all
Right.
picked the Chiefs.
Oh yeah. Well, the Bucs are gonna win because good old Tommy boy.
As of Patriots, yes, true.
Man, all these damn Patriot fans get it one way or the other, man. They don't make the playoffs, but their boy Tom makes it again. That's great. We're so happy.
Next
Can't
week,
get enough of it.
Next week, this wall's gonna be the nice Tampa Bay red. For those listening, my wall is blue. It's gonna be red.
All right, guys. And that, I guess, wraps up our Super Bowl preview episode. Next week, we'll be back on to review the Super Bowl, and Steve should be back with us. Thank you, Ian and Lash, for coming on here. I am definitely blanking on what our Twitter and amateur agency Instagram are. Go check us out.
It's just at the amateur agency, pretty sure.
At the amateur agency.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So those are our handles there. Ian, where can the fine folks find you?
Yeah. Well, just first off, thanks for having me. It's crazy that, like, we've been doing this for over a year. I haven't never came on yet. So good to finally be on. So yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at ENG318 and on Twitter at IanGustafson12.
Heck yeah, that is crazy to think this is the first time you've been on, my man. Thank you for coming on, and you're always welcome.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And Lash, where can the fine folks find you?
The fine folks can find me only on Instagram at the official Lash. If no uploads pique your fancy, hit me up. Other than that, cheers for having me on, guys, and it's been a pleasure.
It was awesome having you. Thanks, my man. And finally, our boy Austyn Dalawonga. Where can they find you?
How do I match that hype with my response here? Oh, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Austyn Paul _. That's Austyn with a Y, not an I.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that.
Hey, there you go, Ian. Let's go. You're not a part of Third and Wrong until you do it.
Yeah.
You hear that, Lash?
Say it.
Oh, I know the catchphrase. With a Y, not an I.
Hey.
All right, guys. And you can find me on Instagram at Zach Foth and on Twitter at ZachFoth _. I think I mixed that up. Flip it the other way. That's how it is. Thank you, guys, for joining us. Godspeed. And I will click. Yeah, we're going to end recording here. All right.